Presidents of the United States are elected through a governmental structure created by the Founding Fathers called the Electoral College. Despite its great importance, however, many Americans do not understand the Electoral College and how it works. Rather than becoming president by winning the highest number of popular votes, candidates must win a majority of the Electoral College. Each state is apportioned a certain number of votes, and those votes are then given to the candidate who wins that particular state. Instead of nationwide vote totals, the president is elected on a state-by-state basis. The number of electoral votes held by individual states is determined by the number of elected representatives each state has in Congress. Since every state has 2 senators, every state gets 2 corresponding votes. Added to that basic number of 2, each state then receives the number of votes equivalent to their number of congressmen in the House of Representatives. Since the number of congressmen varies according to its state's population, larger states have more electoral votes. As shown on this map, North Carolina has 15 electoral votes, 2 votes for their 2 senators and 13 votes for their 13 congressmen. California, being the most populous state, has 55 electoral votes. Alaska, having a small population, has only 3. The electoral votes in each state are cast by actual people called electors. Political parties with eligible candidates in the state will each nominate a list of electors. In North Carolina, for example, the Republicans and Democrats will both put forth a list of electors they have chosen. When you vote for a president, you are actually voting for a particular group of electors. The candidate's name is used merely for the sake of simplicity. If you vote for the Republican candidate, you are really voting for the Republican list of electors. If you vote for the Democratic candidate, you're actually voting for the Democrat electors. 29 states and the District of Columbia legally require the electors to vote for whichever candidate had the most votes in their state. North Carolina is one of those states. However, since Democrats and Republicans only nominate someone to be an elector who is very loyal to their party, rarely have electors not voted for the winner of the state's popular vote. Those who do not vote for the winner of their state are called faithless electors. One was in North Carolina in 1968. Instead of casting his electoral vote for the winner, Richard Nixon, he cast his vote for the segregationist, George Wallace. A faithless elector has never altered the outcome of a presidential election. As stipulated by the Constitution, the schedule for electing a president goes like this. Election day occurs on the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. This is when citizens determine which list of electors will cast ballots in their state. Those electors then meet in the state capitol on the Monday after the second Wednesday in December. At that meeting, the electors cast their votes for who will be the next president. A joint session of Congress then meets on January 6th to ratify the results of the Electoral College voting. The new president is then sworn into office on January 20th, which is when the new president officially begins his or her term. In order to win, a presidential candidate must win a majority of the Electoral College votes. This can mean that the candidate who won the most popular votes doesn't win the election. In American history, this has occurred 5 times. John Quincy Adams, Rutherford B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump all won the presidency while losing the popular vote. It is also possible for Electoral College voting to end in a tie, which has happened 3 times. In the event of a tie, the next president is chosen by a vote in the House of Representatives, and the vice president is chosen by the Senate. In this vote, each state gets 1 vote, regardless of the size of the state. A tie has occurred 3 times in American history, and the new president was chosen by Congress. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson won over Aaron Burr. In 1824, Andrew Jackson lost to John Quincy Adams. And in 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes won over Samuel Tilden. In addition to determining how a new president is chosen, the Electoral College also has an enormous influence on the strategies used in presidential elections. Candidates must plan how to win states, not just the most overall votes. Some states, for example, are seen as nearly guaranteed wins for a particular party. Republicans can generally count on winning Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Democrats can generally count on winning New York, California, Oregon, and Massachusetts. As a result, candidates from both parties will do little campaigning in those states, since it is seen as a waste of time and money. In this slide, the states pictured in red voted for the Republican presidential candidate in each of the last 4 elections. The states in blue voted for the Democratic candidate in the last 4 elections. The states in other colors went back and forth and are known as swing states. Presidential elections are generally won by whichever candidate wins the most swing states. This includes North Carolina, which voted for President Obama in 2008, but for Mitt Romney in 2012 and Donald Trump in 2016. No Republican has ever won the presidency without winning Ohio, and George W. Bush won the presidency because he won Florida. There is also a preset strategy for how to win swing states. As of 2020, about 25% of Americans are registered as Republicans, 31% as Democrats, and 40% as independent. Each candidate must motivate as many of their own voters or a base to actually vote as they possibly can. If they do, then the election in swing states will be determined by who wins the most independent or swing voters. If a candidate fails to rally their base and less of them vote, then he or she will have little chance of winning in swing states, and so little chance of winning the election. Hillary Clinton had this problem. Many Democrats were not enthused about voting for her. As a result, in some states, fewer Democrats showed up to vote, which became a major reason she lost the election. In contrast to registered Republicans or Democrats, independent or swing voters tend to be middle of the road and do not like views on either extreme. For this reason, candidates will try to look moderate, especially in swing states, without losing their base who are less moderate. This is the tricky part of getting elected president. How do you motivate the very liberal as a Democrat and the very conservative as a Republican and still look attractive to moderate swing voters? Whoever does that most successfully is most likely to win the election. This is how Americans elect a president. Your vote does matter because your vote helps to determine who wins in North Carolina, one of the swing states, and so gets all of our state's 15 electoral votes. So always be sure to vote.